All right. Very good morning. Very good evening. Welcome back again, everyone. So today it's going to be one of the continuation session for our yesterday's demo session one for this database course. So let's quickly recap what we covered yesterday, and then we'll continue with the further technical discussion. What we started with yesterday, understanding of data center and how DBA will connect to servers, and once DBA connects to server, how we will create databases, and once the database is ready, how DBA will connect to database versus how the application team or the development team connect to database. That's what we understand yesterday. We'll continue further on the architecture part, and then let's see further insights of my database and database architecture and other stuff in today's class. Right. So yesterday we started with the introduction about me and my overall experience and areas of expertise, and the other than Oracle, what are the other areas where I worked, and having a knowledge on that. All we will, all we have, all I have talked in our yesterday session, followed by the course curriculum. The course curriculum, as I said, this course curriculum is pretty much based upon my 15 years of experience, whatever needed for a DBA to support any client to perform any day-to-day activities, whatever the maximum tasks are included in this course. And then this course, once we complete, at the end of the sessions, three important points we're going to discuss. One is resume and cover letter, followed by certifications and sample interview questions and answers, and the mock interview. So those are like very important end of this course. Once you prepare these three strongly, you can able to crack any interview, and you'll be able to get any new opportunities, right? So very important things. So we will discuss about all this course curriculum. Yesterday we discussed all these topics in details, and there are so many things other than this, but which are not listed out here. That's about the course curriculum what we talked, and followed by the course duration and the course timing and the course fee structure. Again, the timings are fixed timings. There's no change in that. 8 a.m. IST to 10 a.m. IST. In Eastern time zone, it's a 10:30 p.m. EST to 12:30 a.m. EST. 2 hours every day. That's a fixed timing. No change in that. And the duration is going to be 45 days. And the actual class is going to start on 16th of October. That's coming Monday. Yesterday and today are two demo session, right? Like if I get again my calendar page here, so 12th and 13th, these two are demo sessions today, yesterday and today, followed by Sunday and Saturday. This Saturday and Sunday, 14th and 15th are weekends, and 16th is the one actual class is going to start. Once it starts, it's going to go for next 45 days, and then we'll be able to complete the course. That's the course duration and the course timing. And of course, this is the paid training. The course fees is 10,000 Indian rupees, 125 US dollar. And then mode will be online training via Zoom link and 19C database version. And then this is a weekday batch. Weekday batch in the sense the classes will be only from Monday to Friday, and Saturday, Sunday, there won't be any classes. Right. So that's a course timing and the course curriculum. And if you're not able to opt for this particular batch, you can always refer our blog. In our blog, we have this course announcement sections. You can always click on that, and you can follow the upcoming schedules. So I have not specified any upcoming new date for the database course. This is the one right now we're going to start it. Right, that's a upcoming course schedule details. And also we talked about the Google Drive link. Again, that is, I'm not going to talk much now because yesterday we talked that is only for the registered students who will get access on this. The course materials and the course PPT, course workbook, and the lab exercise, ready labs, and the previous batch recordings and the current batch recordings, all the softwares, all the tools, all the patches, everything will be available from the Google Drive, or even you can download it from the Google. Right, and then when we start the regular classes from Monday, we're gonna save the private Zoom link because yesterday and today what we're using these are public Zoom link valid for only these 2 days. And Monday onwards, we'll be sharing the private Zoom link only for the registered students. And then we have a WhatsApp group for all the registered students, and we'll be discussing any questions, queries, or any help. Everything will be on the WhatsApp group. So this Google Drive link again, it will be accessible for lifetime access, no restriction on that. You can, you know, have these materials, recordings, all these softwares, everything will be available for lifetime access. And the same thing, WhatsApp group, whatever we create, it's a dedicated WhatsApp group. Again, private WhatsApp group for only registered students and only for limited students. And we can use it for any discussion, questions, queries, not only related to course, even you are working for any client and you need any help or any suggestions, if you're stuck with any work, you always use a WhatsApp group. You can post it, or you're performing any activity in any of the client environment and it is failing, just take a screenshot, post it in our WhatsApp group, and anyone can suggest you the next action plan, or I'll be there to help you on that. Right, that's a WhatsApp group, and again, this is a lifetime accessible group until provided uh, everyone are active. Right, and then other important aspect what we talked is the prerequisites. Very important. Everyone has to understand before enrolling this course. Who will eligible for this course? Who can enroll this course? Anyone can enroll this course. Whether the junior DBA, senior DBA, 5 years of experience, 10 years of experience, or you are newcomer to IT world, or newcomer and trying to enter into this Oracle world. So a- anyone can attend this course because this is a structured such a way that we will gonna cover from the scratch till advanced level. And then for this, we need a minimum basic OS knowledge, mandatory. That's a Windows OS. You should have a knowledge on that. And basic SQL and Linux are pretty much needed. And hardware requirement. So you should have your Windows laptop or the desktop with a 10 GB RAM and 100 GB SSD. So we're going to use Oracle VirtualBox to set up a labs. And that's a prerequisites for the course. Right, followed by the technical discussion what we started yesterday, and then we talked about understanding of the database center, or like I can say data center for any client. We give an example of abc.com, and then how the data center will look like, and then how the Linux admin or data center infrastructure admin provision the servers, physical server or virtual server, and whether it's the Windows, Linux, AIX, HP UX, Ubuntu, SUSE, anything. And once he provision the server, and then he will hand over to us by creating the users, and then we'll continue with installation of our database and further activities. So those are the two topics what we understood, and then followed by once we create a database, DBA, how we connect database is a totally different. How the application team is going to connect to database is totally different. Those are the topics what we discussed and understood, and we'll continue further on that aspect, and then we'll talk about further topics for today. Right. So I'll take a pause for 1 minute if anyone has any questions before I proceed further.
Yeah, hi Malik.
Hello.
Yeah, so physical server in the sense we need to go to the location where the data center.
No, physical server or virtual machines, whatever it is, we access it with the remote. And we talked about remote access. Remote access, we have two types. One is for Windows and other one is for all other servers. Windows has a different way of accessing the servers. We use a RDP. And other than Windows, it may be Linux, AX, or whatever it is. We access it via terminal session, either PuTTY or Mobaxterm. So here
so
we talk about.
both the server we are going to access remotely,
Yeah,
right?
doesn't matter whether it is a physical or VM. Whether it's a physical or VM, we use with remote connectivity because nobody will go to data center to just to access the server. That does not meet the purpose, right? So everything remote connectivity. Provided your physical server is shut down, physical server cable is disconnected in your data center, and you have a VM server and that VM is shut down. Why it is shut down? That VM is again running underlining one physical hardware. The cable connectivity for that physical hardware is disconnected. Only for that cable connectivity, loose connection, and some power issues, only those certain situations we have to physically go to data center, look for the cable connectivity, and then fix it. Otherwise, everything is remote connectivity. All over the world, everyone can access any server remotely, whether it's a physical or VM, doesn't matter. And there are two types of connectivity. If it's a Windows, we use RDP, remote desktop connection. You just type RDP, remote desktop connection, that is only specific to Windows. Other than Windows, we use terminal session. Terminal session either using a PuTTY or Mobaxterm. It may be anything Linux, AX, RHEL, or OEL, Ubuntu, SUSE, any other flavor, we connect with the terminal session. Right.
Out of those, which flavor we are going to use for the lab?
OEL, Oracle Enterprise Linux. All right. So let's continue now. What I'm going to talk, let's quickly draw the same thing what we, let's say this is our data center. Again, same concept. We have same abc.com, our organization, like wipro.com, infosys.com, oracle.com, and then Linux admin, like this is my data center. So again, data center, say London location. The server may be physical or virtual. The physical server, physically they're gonna keep their servers, doesn't matter. And then the virtual server, they're gonna host some huge hardware, and then inside that they're gonna create the VMs using the hypervisor. It may be any vendor. So these are our VMs and these are our physical server. And it may be Windows or the Linux. So I'll just mention it may be Windows or it may be Linux. Anything. The physical server may be Windows or Linux. In the Linux again, so many flavors. Same thing in the virtual machine also. So it may be Windows or Linux, any of these. You can create a number of VMs.
You mean hardware configuration is different, right? For both physical and virtual. So virtual, we may have the more
And
configuration, like what you said, the 1000 TB like that. So in the
that is
physical
the
server,
main physical. Anything, even you can have physical server 1000 TB, whatever it is. There's no limit at all. It's all about cost.
then virtual machine is enough, right? Why we virtual server is enough, right? Then why we need physical server? separately?
Again, virtual server has a different use case and physical server has a different use case. Right, that's a different concept. We're not going to talk about that. Right. So our job is we need a server, physical or virtual, doesn't matter. Once we get a server, let's say we got a virtual server. Let's take, we got one virtual server and then let's say, think it's a virtual or physical, doesn't matter. Oracle lab1 dot local domain.com. So the moment we get access on the server, how we'll get, again, as I said, Linux admin is going to create our individual IDs inside the server, root / root or Oracle/Oracle. So he will create the users and then he will give it to us. Once he create users and he give the IP address, so let's say IP address anything, like I can say 192.168.1.1.1. So he is gonna assign the IP address with the help of network admin or with whoever the responsible person. He will assign the IP address, he will assign the host name, and then he will create the users, and then he will give this credential to a DBS. So he's going to give that Oracle lab1 dot local or abc.com, and then with the IP address 192.168.1.1.1, and followed by he is going to create, he may share the root user or he may not, based upon the security or whatever the security risk factors. Sometimes they're going to share the root credentials, sometimes they won't share the root credential. They will give a Oracle or individual IDs with a sudo access to root. So these are like login IDs. Login IDs they're going to share, and followed by server details. They're going to share with us, and then their job is done. So we're going to continue further with our activities. So we're going to connect to these servers remotely using MobaXterm. Let's take MobaXterm, and I'm going to connect to one of the remote server. Right. So I can connect with the Oracle user. So there's a Oracle user already created. Right. So connected with Oracle user. And let's say I'll connect with the Malik user. Right. So Malik user connected. So again, the difference if you observe for Oracle user, it has Oracle @ the server name, and Malik user we don't have, just a bash. So it's about your profile settings. And for your individual users, if you set a profile, even you can get the login prompt as a Oracle, the username @ server name. If you mention ID, you're going to get which user you logged in, the UID. And if I say ID, again, you can see which user, the UID, the Malik one. Right. So doesn't matter whether you log in with Oracle user, Malik user, or root user. You only can connect one more session. SSH. I can connect with the root as well. Provided you should have all the credentials, you can able to connect. Right. So root @lab1. So we are able to connect. Right. We understood yesterday the data center, how it works, physical server or VMs. It's all out of our DBA scope. And
Hi
once
Malik, good morning. Sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
Why Malik user is not coming as Malik @
Just now I told, right? It's about your profile settings. You have to set the profile.
in bash profile you meant to say?
Yeah.
Could you share that the
Not
change?
needed. Not needed at the moment.
Okay.
Right. Because we should not worry about those things. What is our intention is to focus on that. There are a lot of other things also comes into picture. That is the extra things we need to go along the way. You start working as a DBA and start exploring more things. You'll be able to identify why Malik user is not coming, what I can fix it, how to set the batch profile, how to set my cache shell, bash shell, and then automatically it's gonna fix it. But that is not the primary intention, right? We are here to do a DBA stuff. So those are the things we'll explore more on that. But yeah, to identify which user to logged in, just do ID. That will tell you which user you logged in. That's a one way to identify. And that's the ideal way to identify, to run ID, and then that will gonna give you which user you logged in. Not at the by looking at this one. This may set anything. You can set it even if you logged in with a Oracle user, you can manipulate this one. I can make it as a root. I can show it as a root here. But yeah, that's not the way to identify. The way to identify is just by writing ID and then accurate. That's gonna give you 100% sure result. Right, so yeah, we'll come back to that. So we understood data center and how we can access the server remotely using RDP for Windows, and rest others will connect with the terminal session. And then once we get the access, we logged in right now with the root user, Oracle user, Malik user, because these are the users are all created already. If the users are not created, then we will not be able to log in. So once the users are ready and once we logged into server, and then the next step, download DB software or Oracle software. We're going to download the DB software, Oracle software, if that server has internet access. If not, then we're going to again request Linux admin to download the software, because they're the one having the root privileges and will be having internet access, and then they will help us on downloading the whatever the required softwares and tools. So we'll download the software and create databases. So that's our third step. So we will connect to server, right? So we will connect to server, right? We connected right now, whatever this Malik user or root user, Oracle user, we already taken multiple sessions here with the root, Malik and Oracle. We're able to connect to servers. Once we connect, and then the next step is we're going to download the software and we're going to create the database. Here already database called DevDB got created, because I'm not going to show that how to create database and all that. Going to take 2 to 3 hours downloading and creating databases. So that is one of the DBA major activity. So download and set up your server and then set up your users and then create database. So this is a database DevDB, which is got created here. So the created by DBA. Right, DevDB database created. And then in order to access this database, what we're going to do. So right now a DevDB database is running. We are going to run this ps-f grep smon. So again, smon is one of the mandatory background process, system monitor. And it says, okay, DevDB database up and running. The owner is Oracle. So sometimes in few client environment, you can see prod database running with Ora prod and UAT database running with Ora UAT and dev database running with Ora dev. So you need to understand which user the database is running. Right now, Ora prod, Ora UAT, Ora dev, these are the OS users. So whatever you're seeing here right now, Oracle. So you have to log into that user first. SU is for switch user, and I'm going to log into right now DB I want to connect, which is running with Oracle. I would need to log into Oracle user. So I'm gonna take you to Oracle user. Once you log into Oracle user, you are gonna set the environment by running dot space /inv, and it'll ask what is the SID. Again, the system identifier number. That's unique across each of these your database, whatever you create. We'll talk in our regular classes what is SID and all. So it'll ask you which SID you want to connect. Yeah, we connected to Oracle user, that's fine. And I want to set the environment. For setting the environment, I'm going to run this .inv, and it'll ask which SID you want to connect. I want to connect to DevDB. Right, connected. And now I will verify whether the environmental variables are set or not by running env. And I'm going to grep for Oracle. So env grep which will tell, okay, DevDB, Oracle base, and Oracle home. So environmental variables are set. So I can simply use SQL plus /s sysdba. So this is without username and without password. We are going to connect to database. Now we are inside the a database, and then we connected something called SQL plus /SSDB without any username and password. We're able to connect. This is something we call it as a passwordless connection. So we use something called OS authentication here. The slash is meaning OS authentication. I'm using OS authentication, passwordless connection. Without any username and password, I'm able to connect to database with a user called sys. Sys is a super master user inside my database. He can do anything. He can drop the database. He can delete the database, delete the user. He can do anything inside my database. Right. Again, we'll talk in our regular classes what is OS authentication, passwordless authentication, and what is the sys user, what all privileges he has it. But yeah, for DBA, he has to connect to server first. From the server, he has to run this ps-f grep smon and identify which database SID, who is the owner, and you have to log into that particular user and set the environment and set the SID, validate whether your Oracle SID, Oracle home is set, and then use this OS authentication to connect. Suppose if you're not logged in with that proper user, let's say ps-f grep smon. So right now DevDB running with Oracle, I will log into Malik user and then .inv, and I'm gonna set DevDB. I can validate env grep capital Oracle SID, Oracle base, Oracle home is set. If I use SQL plus /s sysdba, so it never allow you to connect. So you have to make sure that who is the owner for this particular database. You have to log into that. Let's say okay, I'm just going to quickly create one more user add prod passwd prod. Right, I just created one Linux user. So now let's say I'm going to log into prod instead of Oracle. DevDB, Oracle, the DevDB database running with Oracle. But now I'm going to log into prod, one more prod user. Right now you can see prod is a user. And now I'm going to set the .inv and my database is DevDB, and verify your environmental variables are all set. Right, your DevDB, Oracle base, Oracle home, everything is set. SQL plus /s sysdba. So again, prod is unable to connect as a using OS authentication. So we will not be able to connect to database, even though DBA we have server access, will not be able to connect to a database if you don't have the respective, if you don't logged into that respective database owner, for that you need to run this ps-f grep smon, identify which database running with which user. You need to log into that particular user first, right? su oracle dot .env devdb and then env grep capital ora. So all the environmental variables are set, and now you can use SQL plus /SHDB. You are able to connect because you logged in with the respective owner of the database. Right, that's a ideal way to validate. So first, once you download and create a database, DBA connection to database. That's a DBA connection to database. What we need to validate? Login to respective owner. Right? You have to first log into that respective owner of the database and set proper environment, and then connect using OS authentication, or we can call it as a passwordless connection. Right? So these are the 3 steps what we're going to do it. So in simple words, I can show you one more demo. I'll connect to one more server where I have different databases and different users. Right, let's say I have one server here and this server has so many databases. Right, if I do ps-f grep smon, let's say there's so many databases here, right? And then if you observe here, I have 2 databases, a single and waraprod one. 2 databases running with waraprod user, OS user. And then I can take 2 more databases. One is this one. So many are there, but I'll just take this one. Like Ora 19C Prime DB, I have 2 more databases. These 2 databases running with Oracle user. So if I want to connect to Ora 19C or Prime DB, I need to log into Oracle user. If I want to connect to single database or waraprod one database, I need to log into respective waraprod user. That's the ideal way. So you have to log into that respective owner, respective database owner, and then you have to set a proper environment and then connect using OS authentication. That's a proper way to connect. And sometimes what happens, even though you logged in with waraprod and you will not be able to connect to that single database. Even though you logged in with Oracle user, you will not be able to connect to the respective database if you don't set the proper environment. Example, let's say SC Oracle ps-f grep smon. So right now I logged in with Oracle user. My database is running with Oracle user. And if I see my environmental variables are not set, and if I try to connect SQL plus SHDBA, it says SQL plus command not found. SQL plus command not found because you have not set the environment. Let's say I have set the environment .env, and then I can export. I can make a mistake here. Export Oracle SID. So I'll just say devdbb. So env grep. So your Oracle base is correct. Oracle home is correct, and it says dev DBB. So this is a new database together. You are trying to connect to new database. The database is not running at all. It says the database is not running at all. If you try to connect now, SQL plus SHDBA, it says idle instance, connected to idle instance. You are supposed to connect to devdb, but you made a spelling mistake, devdbb. So it says connected to idle instance. Oh, it is connected to idle instance, and will again, okay. So is it my database is down? some kind of a panic situation, right? So the underlying fact is make sure that, give me 1 minute here. Right, sorry for that. Okay. Make sure that which database you are trying to connect, and then the proper environmental variables are set or not. And then many time we do these common mistakes. And sometimes what happens, right? In a hurry with the root user, .env, devdb, env, grep capital vara. So even though all the environmental variables are all set, but you are at a root user or some other user and then trying to connect. So make sure that first you have understood who is the owner and then properly set the environment and then connect. You won't face any issue. Right. That's one way. And then there are questions like, is it mandatory every time I need to run this command? Like, let's say the moment I log into Oracle user, su-oracle, I don't want to run this .env every time. And then I don't want to run this .env, set this environmental variable every time. So I can put them into a batch profile just by running export, export, export. And then once you set this one, you don't need to run it. Automatically you log into Oracle user, all the environmental variables are set. So we have bash profile here, bash underscore profile. For each of those users, we'll be having some hidden file dot bash underscore profile. Inside that bash profiles, you can go and then set this export command. Automatically environmental variables are set. You no need to run that command. Let's say I can put it at the end. So these are the three commands. I can go ahead and then put it in the bash profile, and then I need to source the path. Once bash profile is done, path equal to, you're gonna do $path colon $oracle home / bin. And I'm gonna save this one. So if I exit, now I'm at root user. And the moment I log in with Oracle user, I no need to run now that .env. I no need to run it anymore. If I do environmental variable right now, everything will be set for me. Because everything I kept under my batch profile, the moment I log in with Oracle user, everything will be automatically set for me. I can directly use SQL plus DBA and connect to my database. Right. So that is our DBA connections. Once we create database, again, create database, we're not going to talk. That's a part of the course which needs a lot of time and a lot of things to discuss. So already DB is created, and then the connections is matters for DBAs, how we're going to connect.
Only one question here, if possible.
Yep.
So when we set this batch profile, is it applicable where we have only one instance on the server? Because if we have more than one and we switch to Oracle, it will directly go to that DB.
Again, there are so many pros and cons. If you have one database, one user, like you have Vora-Prod, one database, Vora-AVT, one database, Vora-Dev, one database, everything is running under one server, you can go ahead and set the batch profile. If
Suppose
only Oracle user
yes,
has
yes.
all the databases, then doesn't make sense.
Okay, and this export is something like declare?
Yeah.
Or is it what I understand is like something in other programming language, what we declare is this is what it.
Yeah, it's something else. It don't compare with that variables and the environments.
Okay.
All right. Right now, that is for connectivity. What we talked is the DBA connections, how DBA will connect to database. And now let's say, go back here, database is ready, and then we create a database and we know how to connect to database. Once we connect to database, and then we will manage the database, and then we'll maintain the database. That's our DBA continuation job. So once we're able to connect to database, then our day-to-day job starts. And to manage, maintain, administrate my database is our job. And as I said, application team or the development, they're going to connect to my database directly via application. Like, I have, let's say here, apps team or development team or testing team. So whatever, like whoever want to connect to my database. So, or even end users. Even end users or anything, right? Like my application team or my development team or my testing team or the end user. So if any of these guys want to connect to my database, they will be never be able to connect to server login. They will never get access. They will directly get access to database. How they will connect? They will connect using some client tool. Let's say I can say here client tool, some client tool, or they may connect using SQL developer, or it may be Toad, or it may be URL, web browser, or anything. Like they may use any client tool, SQL developer, Toad, web browser, or mobile device, or whatever it is. So all those connections will go to something they have intermediate, some app server, Apache, Tomcat, WebLogic server, and all these connections will go to that server. And then from that server, all the connections will be routed to my database. So I'm going to create, like, they're going to connect like this, something like this. So if they want to connect here, I'm going to create first users for them. I'm going to create app one. Yesterday we created app one and app one password, and then they're going to connection will come from that app one and app one. So these connections from this application server or from the end users. So sometimes the connection will come from application user to server, or sometimes the apps head, they can directly connect from his client machine to database using the said credentials without any application server, something direct SQL plus connections using that the client tool in his laptop or his machine. So once they connect here, how this connection will be established? Right, let's say now to demonstrate that one, what I'll do, I have this Oracle Lab 1, Oracle Lab 2, or let's say connect from here itself. Right. So what I'm going to do now here, let's say this is my lab 1. Let's say why it is so small. Okay, I'll take a new one. before that, I'll just take a screenshot of this, and then because we need it back again in a minute. Let's take this one. Okay, let's take a new paint. Right, let's say I have this. Okay, this is my lab 1 right now. Oracle lab 1, and then here my database is running. And then I have one more server, Oracle lab 2. So I want to connect. So as a DBA, we already understood in order to connect to this database, it's easy, simple for me. Like, I can first connect to the server. From that server, I can use SQL Plus as connection. I'll go into my database. Easy. So, but the clients want to connect to my database. Let's say I'm connecting from Oracle Lab 2 right now. So assuming that this is my web URL or client tool or SQL developer or Toad. This is one way, like Oracle Lab 2 to database connection. Or let's say the client want to connect from SQL developer even. Let's say one more demo I can give here. This is SQL developer. So SQL developer. So clients want to connect to my database using SQL developer. And you're going to use the same yesterday's user, right? APP1 and then APP1. APP1 and APP1. So we saw this on our yesterday session, the SQL connections, but we'll do one more time quickly. Right, so I can take one more session here. Right. Right, SQL developer test connection is still available. Okay, we'll take one more connection. Test 1 and APP1. I remember the same user what we created inside database, APP1. And then whatever the host name or the IP address of the server, you can give either a host name or IP address. Always use the IP address. And then the port number we already discussed yesterday, 1521 is the default one, and my DB database. So test the connection. Not running. No, not this one. Where is that one server here? 180. Test the connection. And it should be successful. Yeah, it's success because my server IP, host name, my port, and my protocol, everything is fine. And then this is one way, like, the client, we are going to create the users inside the database. So APP1 we created, and then password assigned, and we given it to that application team, and they can connect to my database. So from SQL developer, they can able to connect to my database. And from the server, they want to connect to my database. Right, again, that's also same thing. Like we'll go to second server here. I have lab 2 here. This is my lab 1. This is my lab 1 what we talked, and then I have this lab 2 here, Oracle lab 2. And then I'm going to clear this one. Right, so now I'm going to use SQL Plus app 1. See what I'm doing from the lab 2. I am trying to connect to lab 1 from same thing, whatever SQL developer the client is able to connect, same thing from the Oracle lab 2. I'm trying to connect to my database, which is running under Oracle lab 1. So we have SQL Plus app 1 / app 1, and then we use something called @ DevDB. So this is called a TNS entry. We are going to generate the TNS entry and then pass it to the client. So how the TNS entry looks like? So this is your TNS entry. We are going to give this TNS entry details to my clients. So the moment I give this TNS entry, and this TNS entry, the client will keep it under their whatever SQL developer. Right now, SQL developer, they're gonna keep this TNS entry. And then in the lab 2 for this client also, I'll give the same TNS entry, and then he will give this TNS entry over here. When he's trying to connect from SQL developer, either he has to give all these details every time, or simply he can go to TNS, and then once you go to TNS, he can drop down the TNS entry. If he kept it in the TNS entry, he can just drop down and then select the TNS entry and then connect to database, easiest way. And same thing for the lab 2, he will go to CD, the Oracle home network admin, right, again in the TNS name.vora. So there DevDB, Oracle Lab 1, 1521 and DevDB. So he will keep the whatever the TNS entry provided into a TNS file. Again, TNS admin and the TNS file listeners again will be discussed in details. But for now, he kept the TNS details, whatever we provided, the TNS details into the file. And now you can use the same thing, SQL plus app1 @DevDB, and then he should be able to connect to that database, which is on lab 1. Even though you are in lab 2, you are able to connect to lab 1 DBA database because of you have proper TNS details, right? So if I do describe $, so yeah, apps will not be having any access. I'll just show user to show that username. Show user, it's the app 1. So app 1 is the one which is connected over here. So right now, like what I can say, the connections are coming or not here. I can just quickly show PSFN, EF grep, SMON, DevDB. Right now, these many connections are available here. So if I do count, right now 58 is a count. Totally 58 processes are running under this lab 1, Oracle lab 1. Totally 58 processes are running. The moment the user connects here, SQL plus app1 DevDB, and they see the count here in my server here, 58, and I'm gonna connect here in the lab 2. The one session is established, and if I can go back and check the count, and 59, and then if I do PSFNF grep SMON, so Oracle DevDB local equal to no, it's not a local connection, it's a remote connection, something from the remote connected to my database. So this is the ID. So if I can kill this one, so that's your remote ID which is connected at OS level. The process ID got killed now. So you can make a count. So go back and 58. Same thing for your remote connections over here. Right now again 58. If I connect here, sorry, basics and test and connect. And now you can go and then check your connections. 58, not yet. 59. So it's connected now. So again, you can check that connection details. So local equal to no. So anything coming from remote, you can see this local not equal to no. So that's a remote connection. Right. So that is a connections. A DBA, we use a passwordless OS authentication. And for the apps user or developers or testing team or end business users, so they all will connect connect using password connection, using username and password. And that's basically password authentication. So they have to give username and password, and along with that TNS details. That TNS details said by DBA only. So they have to give that proper TNS details, proper username, and the correct password. Then only they are able to connect to my database and continue to do their transactions, either creation table, inserting the records, and do whatever the transaction they want to do inside my database. All
Now we
right.
want into these connections.
Mhm.
So this connection is, what is the default limit? Like how many maximum connections, like local and remote, can be possible on this instance?
There is no connection. There is a total number of processes inside your database.
No, isn't like there is no setting to set
No.
that up?
No,
A restriction?
no, there are number of maximum processes. That limit you can set it.
Okay, the processes can be set.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be inside database, or is it like on the
Inside
first
database.
level inside database, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Show
so
parameter process. So right
okay.
now 350 is a maximum limit I can set it. I have right now how many process it is? 58, and it cannot go more than 350. This process includes all the remote connections, local connections, some of the background processes.
Background process, yes. So it means that around 50 plus are background process here.
Doesn't matter. It depends upon your database configuration.
Okay, and tomorrow if some user says I'm unable to connect, and later we found that we are reaching.
There's a different error messages. If the process limit reached, there's a different error message it won't throw.
Okay. So we can simply add this parameter, like alter this parameter file and move on, right?
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Malik, what is WC stands for?
What is
You have
WC?
checked the count right there. You used grep.
That's a number of counts. WC, word count.
Word count.
Right. That's the connections. So now let's further go deep dive. So understood about all the connectivity part now, and now let's say how my database looks like. We all understood now. Okay, yeah, this is my database. So this is my database I only created, and I know how to access it, how to manage it, how to maintain it, and I know how to monitor all the remote connections, and everything working fine. But let's understand how this database looks like. What I can correlate this database in simple layman term understanding. How I can correlate. How everyone can easily get to know, okay, what exactly this database is. So for that, to simple understanding concept, I have this diagram here. So this is my Oracle Lab 1, Lab 1. Whatever we are seeing here, Oracle Lab 1, where my DBA database is running. DBA database running under this Oracle Lab 1. So in this diagram here, Oracle database server is nothing but that server where your database is running. That's Oracle Lab 1. And then that database basically has multiple parts inside that. One is instance and one is the database. Actual database or the data file or the storage files. Actual database or the storage files are the files which will hold your actual data, and we have an instance to process that data. Whatever the data you are going to store, to process or help to process the data, there's an instance. So your actual database server is the Linux server where you install the database, and that database server has an instance plus a database. Instance is a logical entity which will help us to process that data, and the database is actual data files or the physical files which are stored under your OS. So in order to correlate that one, just for our day-to-day human life, let's say I'm being a human, one of my friend comes and gives some information. What I'll do, I will just keep that information in my mind, and then how much time I can keep it in my mind, how many days over a period of time I may forget that. It may be my like my friend one who came and he told about one university address or uh, one whatever the address or whatever the details, whatever the information he has given. Temporarily, I'll keep it in my mind, and over a period of time, I may get forget that. So I will start writing that into a notebook, and then once that notebook is full, I will take one more notebook and then start writing into that. That will goes on, like again other friend will come and then he will give some more information, and then again I will keep it in my mind. If over a period of time I may forget that, again start writing into book, and then say after a month or after a 1 year, the same friend will come back, and then you may request the same information. Can you give me, I told you other day the address, do you remember that? If I remember that one, I can immediately respond him back. If I don't remember, and eventually I will go to the books, I'll search it out, and then I will get that, and then I'll give it back to him. Right? That is how the human day-to-day the activities happens. Same concept I can correlate with my database architecture here. The user one, the client one connects to my instance, and then he do some transactions, and employee table, and inside employee table ID, employee ID 1. He's gonna create some record inside employee table. He's gonna create employee ID 1. The moment he creates, so any user, like this is a client one transaction. He's gonna connect to instance. The instance is nothing but like the human, how this human do all these activities. The instance is going to take that connections, and whatever the transaction he's gonna do insert this employee ID 1, he's gonna write into memory, and then the instance will reply back to the user, okay, your transactions are completed. And over a period of time, once this memory is full, and we have this bunch of background process. So with the help of this background process, it will be start writing into actual data files. So here instance is kind of a human, and how this human has a brain. Similarly, my instance has a memory, and then how this human has a pair of hands to do this write operations and read operations. So similarly, we have this bunch of background process which will help for writing and reading the data. Right, that's the client one. And similarly, client two comes and he will add employee ID 2, and again the client who connected to my instance, the data is going to write over here employee ID 2, and then we'll tell the okay, your data is saved. And over a period of time, with help of the background process again, we're going to start writing into data file. Again, after 1 year or 1 month or 1 week, the client one comes back again, and then he's gonna do the select statement. Select employee table where employee ID equal to 1 or employee ID equal to 2. The moment he do, the instance will check whether that data is available in my memory. If it is available in the memory, we'll directly give it back to that user. If it is suppose not available in the memory, let's say it's not available in the memory. So then eventually what happens in this instance, with help of this background process, we'll get that data back to memory, and from the memory, it'll give it back to that user. The same concept applicable for our day-to-day activities with the database architecture here. So what we understood here, the database architecture, 3-4 important terminologies. One is a database server, the Oracle database server, that's a Linux server itself. Great. So one is Oracle database server. The name itself suggests Oracle database server is your Oracle lab1 dot local domain. So whatever the lab1 we have, that server where you installed your database. So your actual database server consists of instance and BG process, instance and then database. So I can say instance and the database, two major component. Your Oracle database server here, whatever we see Oracle database server, which is combination of instance and the database. Two things, two major things. So out of this instance, again, this instance is made up of again two important concepts. One is memory and BG process. And then this database is nothing but data files or storage files. It may be anything. So actual data is going to store here. So database is the one storing actual data, all your end user tables, whatever the data they're going to insert, everything will be stored under database. That's the data files or the storage files. Actual data is going to store over here. In order to do any read and write and process the data, the instance, the logical entity instance is mandatory. That instance is basically made up of memory and the background process. Whatever we are seeing here, a memory and the background process. It has a memory and the background process. So those are logical entities. The instance is a logical entity which is made up of this memory and background process. So again, if I go deep dive, memory has SGA and then PGA. And then this background process has some mandatory and some of them are non-mandatory background process. So some mandatory background process are like SMON, PMON, DBWR, LGWR, logwriter, dbwriter, SMON, PMON, CKPT, checkpointer, and so many other things. And then non-mandatory background process are your archiver and other job queue process and so many processes, non-mandatory thing. Great. Again, in the memory, SGA, PGA, again in the SGA, we have so many memory component, your SAID pool, your buffer cache, your log buffer cache, and your Java pool, your stream pool, and large pool. There are so many sub-memory component inside your SGA. And again, inside your PGA, there are so many stack space and UGA, user global area, and so many other stuff. So inside PGA itself, there are so many subcomponents. Inside SGA, there are so many sub-memory components. In the background process, some of them are mandatory and some of them are non-mandatory. And then all of them together, my memory and background process will form an instance. And then that instance will work with my database. Database are my actual data files. So in the data files, you can see system, sysocs, undo, and then your user, and you have your temp. And these are like default one. Along with that, any apps related, whatever the apps related data files, all those data files you can see it over here. Right, those are physically available on the storage side. These data files are physically available on the storage side. So all this together will form my database architecture, and then it is for the end users seamless. So they will not be able to know this complex architecture. It's a DBA job who is the one managing all this. We are the one DBA who is going to manage this database, basically all the data files, how big they are, how they are growing, and whether the data files are accessed by instance properly or not, and then all my memory component, all my background processes are running fine or not. So that is our day-to-day DBA job or DBA task. Right, so any questions so far?
So both data file and storage file means same, right, Malik?
Yeah, file
Okay.
at your voice level.
Are we going to cover this architecture in detail in the actual classes or?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
We are not yet started the architecture, it's an overview.
Okay.
All right. Let's go back now. In my server, instance and the database, two things. Instance is, again, let's go back. Instance is combination of memory and the background process. There'll be bunch of background process. If you see background process, mandatory, non-mandatory. So if I check those background process now, ps-ef grep DevDB. So DevDB is my database. If I want to check all the background process related to my DevDB, so many things. So mandatory one which I just listed out, pmon is a mandatory background process, and you have a log writer, you have a DB writer, you have a checkpointer, you have smon mandatory one. Other than that, whatever you are seeing, the job queue process, your archiver, and whatever these are like non-mandatory. If I kill them, it's not going to impact anything on my database. If I kill the mandatory background process, my database instance will go down. And these are background processes which will get started the moment you start your database instance. Right. And coming back to memory, connect to database, show parameter SGA. So my show parameter SGA. So I have my SGA target 3 GB set. Show parameter PGA. So I have my PGA aggregate limit and PGA target, which is 2 GB set. So I have SGA memory allocated. I have this memory and the background process. In the background process, mandatory and non-mandatory. So just now we talked mandatory and non-mandatory background processes. And in the memory, I have SGA and PGA, and SGA is set for 3, PGA is set for 2 GB. And inside that SGA, PGA, all this memory will be dynamically allocated based upon your automatic memory management. So that combining together will form my database instance. Whatever we are seeing here, this all the memory structure and all these background processes, all will combining together forms my database instance. And where is my database? That actual data files. So I need to go to my data files, U01 app, Oracle, Data, DevDB, and data files. So these are my data files inside my database. So this, I know the location, I can directly go here. So in order to find that data files, you need to connect to database, select name from $, data file. So that's going to give you all the data files available for this particular database. System, sysocs, undo, and users are like default comes. Along with that, whatever you're going to create, all are like application related or your own custom related data files. Right, those are like data files or the storage files are actually available on your storage. It may be in local file system. Right now, whatever you're seeing is a local file system, or it may be ASM. Right now, I have this lab 2 where it is a ASM one. If I run the same command on lab 2, these data files are on ASM. Again, we have a separate chapter for ASM. We'll talk on that. So anything start from this plus data or plus, that is meaning your storage is ASM. So your system, sysocs, undo users are stored under ASM here. And here, all your data files are stored under local file system. Doesn't matter wherever it stores, it's a data file which holds the end user data. Whatever the table they created, whatever the data inserted, all the data will be stored under these data files. So in order to read or write or insert any data or access this data file, your instance is mandatory. Instance is a logical entity which will be get started at the time of your database startup or the instance startup. So if I do shut immediate means I'm shutting down my database instance. I'm shutting down my instance here. There is no shut immediate for database. Database is what? Database is a data file. Those are the file, physical files are available. There's no way like, shut down and start up of database. It's a shutdown and start up of your instance. That's a logical entity. I'm just doing a shut immediate. So my database is down. Database instance is down. So let's say ps-ef grep devdb, nothing is running. So this is the OS processes. Other than that, like nothing, no background processes. And if I connect SQL plus /s sysdba, nothing connected to idle instance. Means your instance is down. So whatever your data files are useless. Whatever the data files or the storage files is here, nobody can, end user cannot access these data files. This is your actual database. Data file is your actual database. So all data is available here in these data files. But none of the application user, none of the testing user, none of the developers, or none of the DBA can able to access these data files. Who can access these data files? Only instance can access the data files. Instance is a mandatory. Any client, the client one cannot directly connect to my database, cannot directly connect to my data files and read the data. Even though client one only created this employee table here on this particular data file, but he cannot read and he cannot write the data file directly. He has to connect to instance, and from instance, he has to either read or he has to write. The instance is mandatory thing. Great. Let's go back here now. Let's connect back and start the instance. SQL plus SSDBA connected to idle instance. It means my instance is down. The moment I start it, automatically it'll allocate the memory and it will start all the background process. The moment I start this connected to idle instance, and right now let's say ps-ef grep devdb wc. I'm just going to do count. Right now it's a 3. I'm just going to connect back. Startup. So it's going to allocate that memory, HGA, PGA and all. And then it's going to start all this background process. Right, it allocated the memory. And database is opened. And if I do count, at devdb,
Malli, we have not passed the environment variable here.
which environmental variable?
We set the environment and then we move on.
We set it in the batch profile, right?
Okay.
Great. So all the background process got started. And then at the time of my database startup, all the memory allocation happened. That's your instance. Instance, the moment you start it, these two things will get started, and this is a logical entity. So this instance is mandatory to access your database, to access your data files, to access your storage files. Any client want to access or read or write the data, he has to connect to instance first. From the instance, he's gonna take it further from there. All right. I'm gonna
Hi,
stop it
Malik.
for now. Yep.
So do we specify the memory allocation during the creation of database, how much
Right.
memory it should allocate.
Right. Default 3 GB and 2 GB.
Okay, so when you fire startup, then it will allocate whatever the memory we have specified while creating the
Right.
database. That much memory it will allocate, right?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Malik.
Yep.
Is there a way to know is that a mandatory process or not mandatory process?
No, these are the 5 one. These are the one which are mandatory one. Other than this, everything is non-mandatory.
Okay, fine. Got it.
Yeah, hi Mali.
All right. Hello.
Yeah, Mali, what is the maximum value we can set for processes?
Processes. It depends. There's no limit based upon your memory, your resource on the server. You can set it. 1,000, 2,000. I've seen it. Some customers setting 18,000.
Okay,
Yeah, it's all depends how much memory you have it on the server.
okay, I think.
All right. So again, further installation type, so much standalone, rack, single instance with ASM, without ASM. And right, once if I want to give a little one last demo for today. So I have this DevDB, which is running under this Oracle Lab 1. And then grep S1, I have this Oracle Lab 2, which is TestDB running under ASM. Here, sorry, here on Lab 1, only DevDB, we don't have ASM. And Lab 2, we have a TestDB and ASM is running here. So both are single server, and in order to write that, it's a Lab 1. This is Lab 2. Here we have this DevDB, and here we have this TestDB. But the difference between both are single server, single node. The difference between here, the DevDB running all the data files are under local storage, and TestDB, all the data files are under ASM. So that's the major difference. So I'll connect to again DevDB. Select name from $v data file. So all data files are /u0. That's a local file system for DevDB. If I go to lab 2 and if I run the same command, all the data files are under plus data. So that's your ASM. If I exit and I can go to this location and do ls, I can see all the data files. And for the ASM exit, I cannot do cd because this is not the slash, this is a plus that indicates it's a ASM. That's the one way to identify whether database is running under ASM or whether database is running under local file system by connecting to database and checking the data file location. Other way is to check PSF grep S1, it'll give you only database details here. Whereas here, if I do PSF grep S1, it'll give database plus, it's gonna give this plus ASM. That indicates, okay, it's a ASM storage. ASM is automatic storage management, which will give a storage capability for database. You can keep your database data files in the ASM. So how I can go to this location then? So for that, we have to connect something called ASM command line. You need to set the environment to plus ASM for that. So right now, my plus ASM running with Oracle user, I already logged in with Oracle user. I need to set the environment to my ASM now, not the database. I have to set it to plus ASM. So once you set, validate the environmental variable. You have plus ASM, Oracle base, Oracle home. Oracle home is pointing to ASM home. And then I have a utility called ASM CMD, ASM command line. That will take you into ASM command line mode. That's a plus. So now you can go to this location, whichever location you want to check, go insert that ls-l. So you can see all the data files. You can do whatever maintenance or administration. Right, that is the one difference between lab 1 and lab 2. Lab 1 is a standalone database with the file system. Lab 2 is again standalone database with the ASM. So ps-ef grep smon, you can see ASM and database here on lab 2. And here ps-ef grep smon, you can see only DevDB. So the advantages with the ASM is the restart capability. So here I said smon is the mandatory background process, right? You can see mandatory background process, smon, pmon. If somebody kills this background process, if this background process is terminated by OS process or some network process, so your database will go down. Let's say here lab1, smon, this is the process ID, OS ID. So it is killed by some OS admin or some junior DBA. He killed a background process and your database is gone, right? Smon, it is not showing that DB. So if I try to connect to my database, I connected to idle instance. You have to start the database manually. Assuming that in the midnight, your smon or any of these background process, smon, pmon, debrater, logreader, checkpointer, any of these background process are killed or your database server rebooted due to some network or OS issue or whatever the reason, and your database will be down. Your instance will be down. So you have to manually connect back and you have to manually do a startup to start your instance so that end user can able to access your database. Whereas in lab 2, if somebody kills a mandatory background process for this test DB, smon, this is a mandatory background process. If somebody kills this one, we have this ASM instance automatically restart that one. It will not make your shutdown. Like, it will be your DB will be down for a few seconds and immediately your database will be back online. You can see here your DB was down here and your database is back online. Who has brought your database back online? Your ASM has that capability to restart your database if the critical mandatory background process are killed due to some OS issue or some network issue or your DB went down, automatically your ASM will bring it up. So that is one advantage is why Oracle suggests to go with the ASM as a storage. Right?
Only one question. Suppose we are on ASM instance and we wanted to forcefully bring down the database for some activity, then what we will do?
The moment ASM you bring down, automatically does also will go down.
Okay, so they are dependent.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. So I'm gonna stop it now. If I start continue, it will take so much time, and then I'm gonna stop for today. If anyone has any questions or queries, I'm happy to take it related to this course or any of these topics so far, whatever we discussed. Otherwise, we are good to wrap it up for today.
But like how to bring down the ASM?
Yeah, we have separate chapter for ASM, right? Like if I go here, there's so many methods in order to bring down your ASM. We have separate chapter in our regular classes where we're going to talk about uh, database and ASM and how you can do administration and all of them. Like for your question to answer, I can get it over here. Okay, how to stop your ASM instance? We have different method. One is using srctl stop ASM start ASM one way, and the other one is go to your ASM command line, do startup, shutdown, ASM command line also you can do. That's the second one. And the third one is your SQL command line to do a shutdown and startup. You can have a different way or approach to manage your ASM. And similarly for database also, there are different way to manage and administrate your database using SQL plus srctl based upon your environment. Right? Yeah, we'll be discussing more in our regular classes. But for answer, there are the multiple methods. to do your database or ASM maintenance and database maintenance.
Okay, thank you, Malik. And one more question, Malik. In which are all the cases server goes down?
Again, depends. It may be network issue, OS issue, or hardware issue, or anything.
In what are all the cases we need to bounce the database? In what's in real time?
Many activity, right? In order to change or increase the memory of your database, or in order to increase your processes, in order to apply the patch, in order to do your database upgrade, so many scenarios.
Okay, we need to shut down the database and we need to apply the patch, then we need to start up.
Yeah, the sequence again will be covered in our regular classes, patching, the bouncing the database, changing the parameters. And as I said, parameters, the processes, if you want to change, you have to bring down the database. So again, there are static parameter and dynamic parameter. If it's a dynamic, without bringing down the database, increase dynamically. If it's a static parameter, you need to bounce the database in order to take that new value inside your database. So yeah, those all will be covered. And the patching, again, there's a lengthy process. So much things you have to do, pre-checks, post-checks, and do a patching. Patching again, patching on ASM, patching on database, and database home, ASM home, followed by inside database, you have to run the data patch. Yeah, that is also so many things inside that.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Malik. Good morning. This is Zaki recording. And yesterday I sent you an email that payment details. Okay. Did you receive my email? I didn't get the reply from you.
Can you ping me on my WhatsApp if possible? So take my WhatsApp number, or anyone interested. Probably I'm gonna ping it in the group here. I'll check my emails and I'll get back to you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and possible you can ping me on my WhatsApp as well. I'll take a look on that.
Okay. Fine.
Yeah, hi Malik.
So, Malik, what is the duration of this course?
We already talked on that one, right? It is a 45 days.
Okay.
Probably end of November, we're gonna complete this course.
Okay. I mean, the payment details you will share in the WhatsApp.
Yeah,
You contact
ping me on
WhatsApp.
my WhatsApp, or I pinged in the chat here my WhatsApp number and the email ID.
Okay.
You can ping me or drop me an email. I can revert back.
Because I have registered for the course, but I didn't get any confirmation email for that.
Yeah, I can ping me.
Registration.
You can ping me on
Yeah,
my
okay.
WhatsApp. I'll revert back.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi Malik. I have a question. Don't know if that is related to this course. So thing is, can I install multiple database version software in a single host machine?
Yes, you can install.
Okay.
Only one question related to Google Drive. Can you show us the path where the predefined labs are there? You can download.
Yeah, I can ping in the group, our group chat.
Thank you.
All right. Any questions before we stop it? And one last thing, whoever registered or whoever got added to our group yesterday, probably today or end of the day, I'm gonna share the access to everyone. By end of the day, you'll be getting access to Google Drive, and I'll be sharing the private Zoom link for our actual classes, starting with Monday. I'm gonna share it on probably tomorrow. We'll get started from Monday onwards. All right. Thank you, everyone. Let's connect on Monday with our actual classes. Happy learning, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Malik.
Thank you.